Hi, good evening, everybody. Hi, good evening, everybody. I am Vijit Nandrajog from Golf Design India, golf architect. We've been in this golf course design and construction industry for over 15 years. A company called Golf Design India has been involved in designing and construction of over 50 projects throughout the country. I'm here to talk about golf course architecture in India and the trends that I feel would be there for everybody to see for the future in terms of golf course architecture in the country. So, just a quick overview about our company. So, I'm the principal architect for Golf Design India. I'm an MSc in golf architecture myself from Scotland. Also, the general secretary for the GCSMAI and the PGF India. And our company, Golf Design India, provides comprehensive golf course development and design solutions, so right from golf course designing, construction to renovations of existing golf courses. We've been fortunate to work on a lot of projects, some of the very reputed and big clubs in the country, including Delhi Golf Course, Noida, Panchkula, Chandigarh, Tollygunge, to name a few. And we've developed new golf courses for real estate companies like Godrej, Adani, Supertech, as well as a lot of government authorities like the railways and tourism, state tourism authorities as well. So before coming on to the trends in golf architecture, I just thought I'll put together a few slides just to show how the game and golf architecture has evolved through the years. So, and so as we all know, golf started back in sometime in the 14th century in Scotland. You have records showing golf being played, a game like golf being played in Scotland as well as China and Holland as well in the 15th century. Basically, that was a game that people used to play hitting pebbles with the wooden sticks around in the sand dunes in the Linksland. That's how the game started. It was not before the 1700s actually that the game was formalized, and the first 13 rules of golf were put together by the Honorary Company of Edinburgh Golfers out of Muirfield in Scotland in 1744. And then in the 1800s is when golf course development started happening in the British Isles. Links golf courses were built all across Scotland and Ireland and England. And old Tom Morris, who was the greenskeeper at St Andrews, the old course at St Andrews, was responsible for setting up a lot of golf courses, a lot of classic links golf courses in Scotland, including Prestwick, which was where the first British Open, I think the first 9 British Opens were held in Prestwick starting 1860. So if you look at the history of golf course architecture, or rather how golf courses came up, primarily in the old days, golf was played on linksland, which is the land that links the sea to the farmland. This strip of land usually is a narrow strip of land, which is not conducive for farming. And people started using this for recreational activities, and golf was also played in this natural land here, which had the natural topography, natural rolling topography, natural sand dunes, so ideal place to hit a ball, knock a ball around on the ground, along the ground. Then, with the expansion of the railways, that is when golf course development started happening inland as well. So, as and when the railways expanded through the UK, through the British Isles, golf courses were developed, wherein even till date, this picture that you see on screen is from Royal Troon British Open site, and the railroad track is almost, not really almost, that is in play, and this is not unusual. So if you go to Scotland and play some of the old traditional links there, you have a lot of golf holes where you have railway tracks in play, and I've lost a few balls, more than my share, on the railway tracks there. So golf reached America in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So India obviously has a much more richer history in terms of golf than the United States. So, but the early golf courses in the US were not really comparable in terms of the quality of the design, etc., with the golf courses in UK, because there was not too much expertise there, and it was only in the 1920s that golf course architecture started booming in America. This is what is known as the golden age of golf course architecture, where you had classic golf courses built all across America. Some of the top legendary golf architects like Alister McKenzie, Donald Ross, Tillinghast, George Crump, George Thomas. These guys collaborated also very closely together and built some classic golf courses, most of which are still top ranked golf courses in the world. So if you look at the top ranking, pick up any magazine, be it Golf Digest, Golf Weekly, Golf Magazine, whatever, the top 20 golf courses are dominated by golf courses that were built in the golden age of golf architecture in the 1920s. So everybody who is associated with the game of golf or golf architecture owes a big debt to these designers who built these classic golf courses back in the 90s, 20s, and 30s. Then moving on, post the World War, this is when the modernization of golf courses happened. This is when golf courses started becoming longer, tougher, penal, lots of water hazards, lots of bunkers. Plus, the trend of signature branding of golf courses started. So you had signature names, golf courses cropping up everywhere. And obviously that had its marketing value. Also, there's a big shift from the old link style traditional looking golf courses to very well manicured and maintained golf courses with wall-to-wall carpeting, lush green turf. So that was the modern era for golf course design and architecture. Back in the day, I think there were 500 to 800 golf courses being built in the States every year. And most of them were built similar to this picture that you see. Now, fortunately, golf architecture has come a full circle. We're back to sort of the traditional style of golf architecture again. So all the top new golf courses that you see around the world have this. We've gone back to the old style of golf architecture where you have native areas coming in play, using the ground game more. So a lot of link style playability characteristics are instilled in the design these days. Plus, the strategy of the game of golf is revived. So back in the modern era of golf architecture, most of the golf courses, I won't say all, but majority of the golf courses were built on the penal school of golf course architecture, where you had a lot of water bodies, a lot of bunkers. So the angles of play were taken away. Now, luckily, that's all changing, and most of the golf courses that are being built now have strategic value and short values in most golf holes. Plus, I think there's a big role that sustainability and the awareness amongst golfers has played, getting this architecture style back in trend now. So obviously, people have realized that such golf courses are much more sustainable because you're not forcing your design on the ground. You're playing with what nature provides you. Use the natural topography of the site more and incorporate that into the design in a natural form. Plus, golfers have realized that you don't have to have wall-to-wall carpeting or lush green, pristine playing surfaces. Even a golf course like this is healthy turf, and to my eye, it looks much better than a wall-to-wall green golf course. This adds so much texture and so much color to the golf course, to the landscape. So talking about the history of golf and architecture in India, obviously the Royal Calcutta Golf Club is the oldest golf course built in India. Back in 1829, the British, in fact, built a lot of golf courses in India pre-independence, including Trivandrum Golf Club and Bangalore and Shillong and Madras. A lot of these old golf courses have been lost, unfortunately, but we obviously have a very rich history in golf. So although we had a lot of golf courses pre-independence, it wasn't really a common man's game back then. I'm not saying it is now, but it wasn't back then as well. And that was mainly because we didn't have any, it was restricted to the British for playing golf. Even after independence, immediately after independence, it didn't start, booming because there was hardly any middle class, and the emphasis was on the economy to get the economy up and running. So it was till much later that golf became popular. The IGU was set up in 1955 to take control and promote and develop the game of golf amongst the masses. It still is very active and conducts amateur tournaments, like you all know. But it was Ali Sher's victory in the Indian Open in 1999, which I think created awareness of the game of golf amongst the masses. It took everybody by surprise, his victory. He also won the Arjuna Award, and people started taking interest in the game of golf then. Then after that is when golf course development actually started happening. All the modern golf courses that you see, ITC Classic Golf Course was the first ever signature golf course built in India, a Jack Nicklaus design. That also the DLF golf course, originally designed by Arnold Palmer, now the Gary Player golf course, which is built over it, and golf courses like the JP Greens, which is probably one of the first golf-based housing township in India, showed everybody the way how real estate and golf can be built or designed in a cohesive manner. This model obviously has been replicated very successfully throughout the country since then. Now coming to where we are, as a golf architect who travels around the country, there are obviously big challenges that we face in terms of golf development. The major challenge obviously is putting the land required together. So you need a parcel of 200 to 300 acres of land to build a proper championship level golf course. And doing that in India obviously has its challenges. Land acquisition is not very easy. You've got to deal with farmers and landowners who own small parcels of land, and getting permits and rights to build golf courses also is a challenge. Then a big market that I've seen, big challenge that I've seen is creating new golf markets in India. So if you look at where golf courses are, located in India, if you take out the Delhi NCR region and Bangalore, you hardly have any, or even Ahmedabad these days. Take these three cities out, you hardly have any major new developments happening elsewhere. So we must look at this aspect, also create new markets. We had Wing Commander Bagmar and Ranjit sir yesterday, who've made small 9-hole golf courses in Nasik and Aurangabad. And that's fantastic. That's opening up new markets for golf. Having small golf courses, introducing the game of golf to children there, and that's the way to go. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face. New golfers and increase in club memberships, even amongst the big golf clubs here in Delhi and NCR. I feel even during the weekdays, golfer traffic can be increased. That's always going to be a challenge to keep the golf course full, all golf courses full, but that's something that we need to work on. Accessibility, it's still not a common man's game, although the government and a lot of state governments also are pumping in money, giving us land to build public golf courses, but still we have a long way to go to give facilities and infrastructure which is accessible for the common man. And we spoke about sustainability of golf courses at length yesterday. That's going to be a challenge for us in the years to come anyway. So the trends in golf architecture in India, like I see it, my personal view on this is it's just trying to show, or rather discuss, where I think golf architecture would head in the next few years. I would say there's going to be a major shift in how much money and resource is put down to build a golf course. We've seen a lot of golf courses pumping in a lot of money during construction. And I think over a period of the next 5-10 years, we'll see a lot of golf courses which are not very, very high end in terms of construction costs, but you'll see golf courses being constructed in a more sustainable way, more economical developments throughout the country. So construction methods like the USGA greens, etc., which unfortunately have been overused, even on sites where USGA greens are not required. A lot of times USGA greens are built. just because they are trendy or just because the person next door is building USGA greens. So all that I think is going to change. People are going to realize you don't need to actually spend a lot of money if to build a proper golf course. If you select the right kind of site, you have the right team, it can be done in a very efficient manner. Another major trend that I see is the irrigation systems. And although Hunter and Toro, two of the biggest irrigation companies in the country, are sponsors of the event, but I feel the irrigation scope is going to reduce. Gone are the days where you had wall-to-wall irrigation systems. I think the way to go is to reduce the irrigation areas, have limited turf, and use water, carefully and responsibly. The picture that you see on the left side, is a prime example of, how a golf course can be built in an efficient manner if you have the right site, the right team. Sandhills Golf Course is a prime example of this. This is ranked in the top 20 golf courses in the world, built on hardly, any land change was done when this golf course was built. So selecting the right site, having the right team, and creating a unique golf course doesn't require too much money. Then the look and style of the golf course, I think such golf courses that you see in the picture right now is what is happening across the world. This is a famous golf course in the States, Bandon Dunes, and such kind of golf courses, I don't think we've seen anywhere in India. This is a prime example of sustainable golf, a golf course which sort of uses the ground game, brings the ground game in play, using the natural contours of the land. To my eye, it's much more appealing than just a wall-to-wall green golf course. So the golfer's perception of the game is also shifting in the country, I see. So everywhere I travel, I understand that golfers are becoming more aware of what good golf architecture is, and what qualities a golf course should have to create interest in the game of golf. So I think such golf courses would come up all over the country also. Then the signature branding trend is also not as big as it used to be. Obviously, you have the value of signature branding. You can't take that away. Certain times you need that on certain kind of projects, but not all projects require signature branding. Prime example here, the Rio Olympics golf course built for the Rio 2016 Olympics was not designed by a big brand. Gil Hanse at that time wasn't really a big name in golf architecture, at least in countries like India. So winning that contract for him over many big brands and signature names was a big step in showing that you actually don't need big signature names to create successful and good golf courses. So that's a trend I think that is bound to happen here in the country also. Then a big trend that I have seen abroad is destination golf. Back in the States 15, 20 years ago, when this golf course, Sandhills, was built in Oregon in the middle of nowhere, people were a little skeptical if anybody would go there. But the success of this projects like Bandon Dunes, goes on to show that if you build a good golf course, even if it's away from town, away from the population, golfers would travel there, provided you have a world-class facility, world-class golf course. And India obviously has spectacular sites in abundance. So once these sites are used for golf, and we create golf destinations, maybe have multiple golf courses in one particular region, I'm sure golfers would travel there. So that trend would also pick up in our country. In fact, it's already begun. Our company is involved in designing a golf course in Ladakh for the J&K tourism. So I see this coming up as a big destination for golf also. Once this is done, it's going to be 18-hole championship level golf course. So such endeavors are being taken up in other states also, all across the country, by the government and private individuals also. Then the trend of multi-golf facilities is obviously bound to come up in India soon. You have Mission Hills in China, you have Bandon Dunes, you have St Andrews in Scotland, you have multiple golf courses in the same facility. And you have golfers traveling from all over the world. I'm sure all of you have traveled to Mission Hills also to see and play golf there. So such facilities definitely would be built and developed in India. It's only a matter of time. In fact, some of the government authorities have also started doing this. Like the Noida Authority, it already has the Noida Golf Course, and they are building another one within a span of 5 kilometers from the existing golf course. So we're designing that golf course for the Noida Authority. It's going to be an 18-hole championship level golf course again. So you will have two golf courses for the residents of Noida and for the members of the Noida golf course to enjoy. So this trend has already begun in the country for having multi golf facilities. Then I spoke about this yesterday also. More 9-hole golf courses, more short golf courses. Majority of the work that we're doing, or any golf architect is doing in India, I would say, is short 9-hole golf courses, mainly with real estate or in standalone golf courses. But these golf courses use up less land, can be built in less time, using less money. They're much more enjoyable to play, quicker to play, and ideal for new markets. So if you this project that you see here, this is a golf course that we are designing in Chhattisgarh. So obviously a state where golf is not very popular, and this is an ideal way to introduce golf to a new city or a new state. So golfers who pick up the game, beginner golfers, are not intimidated by walking onto a big championship golf course. So you have small, friendly golf courses to introduce the game of golf to beginners, especially in new markets. And this is a trend that is I see is happening on a lot of states across the country. Then real estate centering golf development obviously is happening all across the country. It has been happening for the last 20 odd years or so, and it's definitely has its advantages. Selling real estate with a golf course is much more lucrative for the developer, and such plans have been very successful in the past, and there's no reason why they won't be in the future as well. Then something that I'm very passionate about, and I try and incorporate in most of my designs, especially the 9-holers that I do, is to use the land not only for golf but for other facilities as well. These pictures that you see for a golf course, I designed about 10-12 years ago in Tamil Nadu. So this is a golf course, a small 9-hole golf course with 2 par 4s and rest par 3s, built in the tea gardens in the Nilgiri Hills. And we created a botanical garden within the golf course. To the bottom right picture that you see, the person in the red t-shirt is actually playing the same hole that you see on the left side of the screen. So you have a botanical garden within the golf course. You have a winding path through the golf course. You have non-golfers coming in, honeymoon couples coming in and clicking pictures, which also not only gives the developer added revenue and added footfall, but also adds more color to the entire development. We also designed a horse riding arena there, so a multiple use facility. So there's no reason why a golf course should be gated and fenced and nobody should be able to enter a golf course. I believe if it's designed in a nice way, you can have other facilities incorporated in the same land. So you have very good examples of other sports or other activities that can be designed within the golf course as well without interfering in play. Then, like I mentioned, the government is doing its bit to create golf facilities. We are working on 2 18-hole golf courses for the government, one for the DDA, the Balaswa golf course, the extension of the Balaswa golf course from a 9-hole to the 18-hole golf course, and for CIDCO in Navi Mumbai for extension of its existing golf course to 18-hole golf course as well. So you very soon golfers would have more public facilities to start playing golf and learning the game of golf, which is fantastic. Ultimately, I believe that we have to make golf a fun and enjoyable pastime. It's a game. It has to be fun and enjoyable for golfers of all abilities. This picture that you see is a small 9-hole golf course that we designed for the Godrej properties in Greater Noida. a 9-hole golf course with par threes, but done in a very unique way. Try to introduce new features here. So the picture that you see here, you see the tee boxes. There are no markers on the tee boxes here. So the tees are all randomly shaped in different levels. So the golfers are free to play wherever they want to. So if a one day a four ball chooses to use the back tee, they can use the right section of the tee the next day, have a completely different angle and a different yardage for the same hole uh, each and every day. So that adds more flexibility, a bit of fun that golfers can have on a day-to-day basis. Then also the sustainability angle that I spoke about is also very evident here in this picture. So you see the swale that runs through the site. So all the surface drainage water is collected into the swale, and from where it drains into the central pond where you see the island green is designed. So, and the same water is used back for the irrigation for the entire golf course. So, a very efficient water management system has been designed for the course, and it adds a lot of color, a lot of texture to the golf course. This swale has been planted with natural native vegetation that thrives in wet conditions. So the golf course would have a different color, different feel at different times of the year. So monsoons, this picture is just before the monsoons. The monsoon during monsoons, the swale would be more lively, more colorful, and in the winters it would be dry and even playable for a lot of holes. So this adds a lot of color, a lot of texture to the overall development, and makes the game fun and enjoyable. That's the name of the game. I think you have to create golf courses that are fun and enjoyable. Nobody wants to be punished for 5 years, 5 hours when they're on the golf course. Just to conclude, I hope this is the beginning of for golden age of golf architecture in India, and I think we're in the we're at the stage where we can see very unique developments happening in the country, and I would like to believe my company Golf Design India would be at the forefront at changing the face of golf course architecture in India and creating unique golf courses which golfers can enjoy for years and years to come. So that's it. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer. There's a question from Rishi. Vijit, how does one have to study to become a golf architect? Unfortunately, Rishi, there's no course anymore anywhere in the country. When I went to Scotland, there was a golf course, the Masters in Golf Course Architecture in Edinburgh, Edinburgh College of Art, which is part of the Edinburgh University. They were offering this master's course in golf architecture, but there weren't enough takers, I guess. After a couple of years that I passed out, I think that that program stopped, and I don't know of any university anywhere in the world that offers a golf specific architecture degree. Most common way is basically all the top golf architects in the states, especially, basically come from the landscape architecture school. So they're landscape architects, or they study landscape architecture and major, or they do their specific, the thesis in golf architecture. That's how a lot of top course architects like Tom Doak and Gil Hansen, these guys have gone on to become golf architects. They've gone to Cornell University and specialized in golf, taken 1 year off, gone to Scotland, Ireland, studied golf, seen golf courses there, and that's how they've become golf architects. So unfortunately, there's no course that you can do anymore.
Yeah, Vijit, one question I had on a lighter vein. So do we understand this, that after you finished your degree, they decided to close down that course?
Yeah, they thought they can't have a better product than me. I think they decided to just close it down, I guess.
Okay, I have a question, Vijit. I mean, in a country like India, where golf awareness is very, very limited, and we tend to live in colonial past, 19th century. I mean, we don't seem to have come to 21st century at all. We still live in 19th century. So what do you think that designing facilities, smaller facilities, which may not be so slick something on the lines of public courses in US. Is there a market for that in India?
Sir, I would.
There's a necessity for it.
Sir, I would request you to repeat the question because there was some echo on my computer. I couldn't understand the first half.
What I was saying, in a country like India, where awareness about golf is very limited, once the Britishers went away, there has been a void. And we tend to talk a lot about our colonial past as far as golf is concerned. I think we probably need a little bit of smaller facilities in smaller places, which may be less cost intensive. Maybe they may be less landscape oriented. So do we have a market for that, or do we?
100%, sir. So I mentioned this during my presentation also. A lot of majority of our work that we are doing are smaller 9-hole golf courses in newer markets. States like Bihar and Chhattisgarh. So those golf courses are so friendly for a beginner golfer. They're not intimidated to walk onto that particular golf course. So like I also yesterday we saw Wing Commander Bagmar and Ranjit sir talk about their golf courses. I think that's a fantastic model. Build small 9-hole golf courses, efficiently use the natural land, don't do anything fancy, start promoting the game of golf, and you can always upgrade your golf course as you go along. You don't need to do too much to create a golf course and start off with a golf course. I think that's the way to go. You're spot on, absolutely, sir. There.
Okay, there's a question from the audience. The density of golf courses is highest in Assam. There are many functional golf courses playing here, but most of these courses need facelift. Will you be interested in developing these courses? I think I can answer this.
Of course. Absolutely, it will be a pleasure. Yes, absolutely, yes.
Provided there's some budget at least.
Yeah. No, I would love to, sir. And, I'm anyways very interested in seeing the old golf courses in the Northeast. I haven't seen too many. I know, Arun, sir, you've told me of the rich history and how many golf courses there are in the Northeast. I haven't traveled there too much. I've seen a few, but I'd love to spend maybe, just if I can, I'm just saying it, maybe it's not feasible, but I'd love to spend a month or two in the Northeast, go travel around, see these golf courses, provide whatever help I can. That'll be wonderful if I'm able to contribute in any other way.
Please do that, and I'll provide you the guide services.
Right.
There's another question. Should golf courses avoid the trend of island greens because that intimidates beginners?
That's again from Rishi. It's spot on. I think I personally am not a fan of island greens, but like you would know, Rishi, and a lot of clients demand for an island green. Unfortunately, sometimes we architects have to give in to such demands. So I am 100% with you. They're not really for beginners. So what I try and do for every island green that I have to design or make, at least there's enough bailout around the island. It's not strictly an island, although it can appear to be a very tight hole. But I'll try and create some bailout around the green, decrease the yardage, or make the green, very friendly. So in terms of how it receives the golf balls off the tee. So that's something that we can't really avoid, but you're right about that for sure.
And you should be very encouraged. There's a message from Mr. Nagesh Singh, who says that the government may be willing to invest. Please come and be our guest. That is for the Northeast.
Oh, fantastic, sir. I would love to. I'll get in touch with you, sir. Thank you so much. And I'll get in touch with you, and I'd love to be, love to add value if I can, for sure.
There's another question, which is about potential of artificial turf and smaller courses in India.
Yeah, I think we spoke about the smaller courses. There's huge potential. Artificial turf, I'm not very sure about. Personally, I don't have too much experience on playing and building golf courses with artificial turf. From what I know, from limited experience that I have, there's a big gap in the playability standards and characteristics of artificial turf versus natural turf. And it's also a myth that, artificial turfs don't require any maintenance. They also require top dressing and irrigation, like you pointed out yesterday, sir. So It's actually, I don't think it might prove to be slightly more expensive than doing a natural turf golf course, unless you have some constraint like, shade issues or there's no sunlight, etc. There's no reason why you would pick artificial turf over natural turf.
I guess artificial turf will work in places like terraces where you have built up area underneath. But you're right. There's a myth that you don't need any maintenance. You need top dressing, not only from sand. You also need a lot of granules, which if you don't do it, the life actually halves of synthetic turf of any kind.
Sure. And you're spot on, sir, about the terraces and everything. In US, there's a big trend of making backyard greens and academies. So a lot of short game academies are being built with artificial turf, designed very well. And a lot of pros, in fact, also a lot of PGA pros have built backyard greens and short game practice areas for their personal use using artificial turf. So there's definitely potential there, but I don't have enough experience with that to answer this in detail, honestly. Right, sir?
I think there are no further questions. Thank you, Vijit, for a very enlightening presentation. Thank you for taking so many questions. And obviously, I can see that you're going to be in the Northeast very soon. And you know who to ask for the guides.
I can see you'll be with me, sir. Absolutely.
You know who to ask for the guide services.
Much more than that. Not just guide services. I'm sure there'll be much more than that, sir. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.